They told us not to trust Willie Edwards, the Bayou Sorrel boy who turned into a lone shooter who went after big gators and even snakes at night. Other shooters and people who liked his family kept telling everyone who would listen to be careful. After his family went through a terrible event, the man who taught him everything died. Because of this loss, those old warnings became very clear again. But first, we need to know who the Swamp People and Willie Edwards are. This is Willie Edwards from the Swamp People. The first episode of the American reality TV show Swamp People aired on the History Channel on August 22, 2010. It takes viewers deep into the Louisiana swamps to show how the men and women who hunt American alligators make a living. The Atchafalaya River Basin is where the show is set. It's a huge area of wetlands where people have lived off the land for generations. There's more to these hunts than just fun on the show. A lot of people make most of their money during this short shooting season. Louisiana's alligator season starts on September 1st and lasts for 30 days no matter what. At that point, hunters are in a race against time, the weather, and the swamp, which can change at any time, to catch as many alligators as their tags let them. For real, these tags are licenses. They're not just slips of paper. The state gives each shooter a unique number, and every alligator they catch has to have a tag on it. When they run out of these tags, they can no longer hunt alligators. They have until the end of the month to fill them all up, or else the tags and the money they could have made will go to waste. That's why the final goal is to tag out before the season ends. Going after gators here is more than just a job. It's a habit. This method has been shared from father to son and sometimes from mother to daughter for about 300 years. The hunters depend on skills they've learned over a lifetime, like being able to read the water, find the biggest alligators, and get through a swamp that can suddenly become dangerous. Life doesn't just get easier after 30 days. A lot of these hunts have to work other jobs to make money. Some people set nets for crabs, raccoons, or turtles, while others fish for catfish, crawfish, or shrimp. A lot of them still have normal jobs outside the swamp. This is what you call balancing the old ways with the needs of modern life. There are different hunting teams each season, and the show shows how the families work together and how they deal with the difficulties of the swamp. There is gator hunting at the heart of Swamp People, but the show also shows other parts of their lives, like fishing trips, hunting for other animals, and times when custom and survival come together. From the 4th season on, the show went beyond the Atchafalaya. The cameras followed the teams to other parts of Louisiana and even into the swamps of Texas. This showed that the culture of the swamp is rooted in one place but spreads out over a large area. Who is Willie Edwards then? Junior Edwards and his son Willie started the alligator season together that year, like they had done for years. They worked well together in the first shows of their show, but soon, Willie began going on hunts by himself. People noticed the change, mostly because Junior had shot Willie in the hand by mistake not long before. When you really looked at Willie, though, it was clear that the event hadn't made them fight. 2 things stood out to Willie while he was on the water. First, he did things that most shooters would have thought twice about, because these moves were quick and brave enough to catch the biggest alligators. Also, he never said anything bad about his dad. No matter how many times he was yelled at, bit, or even shot, he never ran away. Willie went back to work with Junior almost right away after the accident. His love for his dad never went away. Even when he went shooting by himself, like Bruce Mitchell did, he always came back to sail with Junior. On the water, Junior's speech was often very loud. There were times when Willie's hook aim was off by a few inches, or when he pulled a gator's head up 2 feet from Junior's gun barrel instead of the 1.5 feet Junior liked. Junior had a lot of knowledge and always wanted things to be done right. In contrast, Willie was already a good shooter, but he knew that his father was better, so he paid attention, learned, and continued to respect him. When you looked closely at Swamp People, you could see that each hunting group had its own way of doing things. It was important for Troy Landry to have a steady pace with his crew. He had that with Clint and Liz, but not always with his son Jacob, unless it was raining. RJ and Jay. It was Paul Molinari's skills that came from being Homa, along with their airboat. The Gist brothers moved more slowly. They were ready to cook whatever came their way with a beer. Junior and Willie did a lot of the same things as the others. For example, they used the worst-smelling meat they could find to bait their hooks. They worked from dawn until well after dark, setting their lines at just the right height. The hand-thrown treble hook, on the other hand, was a technique they didn't use. From the first season, we saw them melt lead and pour it into a pipe that was full of hooks to make a heavy homemade tool that was great for catching alligators. Willie used that style every time after that, and it worked every time. His dad, Junior, wasn't like most other alligator shooters. He didn't get another full-time job when gator season was over because he fished all year. That wasn't easy to do in southern Louisiana, where the prices of fish and game could change in an instant and a bad season could ruin months of effort. He went after any animal that was in season, like catfish, crawfish, or even crabs, while getting ready for the next task. But what does a hunter like Willie do in the swamp for a living? How does it feel to live in a swamp? People in the swamp say that you should never turn your back on a dead gator. That was a hard lesson for Willie Edwards to learn. It was hot in the morning, and the air smelled like muddy grass and rain. The lines were being worked by him and Junior when they saw a big alligator. The kill zone was right at the back of the gator's head, about the size of a quarter. Junior had to make sure his shot was perfect. When the gunshot hit the still water, it made a sharp sound. Willie and he grabbed their big homemade treble hook and dragged the animal into the boat. The only trouble was that he thought the alligator was dead. It came back to life as soon as the alligator hit the deck, lash out its tail and snap its lips. Willie didn't have time to think, so he threw himself on the gator's back and tried to hold it down while Junior looked for another shot. Willie almost lost his hold on the gator because it was moving so fast. It bit him on the hand with its teeth. He felt like his bones were being crushed so hard that they would turn to powder. Junior rushed toward him when he yelled for help, but all he had was a small pocket knife. It takes about 1,000 pounds of force for a 5-foot alligator to bite, and this one wasn't giving up. Junior put the blade between the jaws, which opened them just enough for Willie to get his fingers out. Junior didn't wait around for a second before he cleared the gun and fired it again. This time the gator went limp, but the danger wasn't over. There are more than 38 different types of germs in a gator's mouth, and every bite can cause a serious infection. If Willie didn't clean up the wounds on his fingers, he could be in bed for days. The teeth had broken his skin. Before, the boys had hydrogen peroxide with them for this reason. In the wild, you fixed your wounds, made sure the holes were clean, and went back to work unless it was bad enough for a hospital. There were more than just alligators in the swamp. If storms come in from the Gulf, calm water could quickly become dangerous. This was something Troy Landry knew better than most. He had a friend who tried to cross Lake Verret when the weather was rough. The waves hit the boat, and the friend sank before he could get to the shore. You need to remember that you're not swimming out if you went deep without a life jacket. Troy decided one afternoon in the summer that the best places to see alligators were on the other side of the lake. When they set out, the water was already rough, and about halfway across, a white cap hit the ship and sent spray into the air. While firing the motor, he yelled for his buddy to hold on and used speed to get through the waves. They were lucky to make it across. They were on Lake Pontchartrain that same week when there was a storm. There were no gators around because of the wind, but Joe didn't want to leave without anything. He told Tommy that they would try one more place, even though it would mean crossing rough water in the middle of the storm. Tommy, on the other hand, didn't care about any of it. The waves hit the boat hard and soaked everyone inside. The deck felt like it was going to fall at that very moment. Tommy made his point halfway across, and they turned around right away because they knew the lake wasn't worth their lives. There were times when the water wasn't the danger. That's what RJ learned when he found a gator stuck in a cypress root on land. The alligator's head was still in the mud, making it look like it was dead. But the line broke when RJ got close. The alligator rushed. He was lucky that most of the bite went on his boot and not his toes. But it was clear what it meant. You could still be killed by a gator on land or in the water. As Troy Landry pulled grass off a line, an 8-foot alligator clamped down on his arm. It was a close call. With each twist and snap, the pain shot through him like lightning. They were able to stop it in the end, but not before Troy got cut badly on both sides of his hand. He was sure that the rush of energy was the only thing that kept him from passing out. However, Willie was in danger from something else. His dad's gun. Junior had shot at a gator more than once while Willie was only a few feet away. Once, the bullet hit the gator in the head and then went up a quarter-inch and hit Willie in the arm and face. He might have lost an eye. He felt the burn from the lead for a long time after the blood stopped. Sometimes it wasn't the teeth or the gun, but the alligator's strong desire to stay alive. Don't forget that Willie once brought what he thought was a dead gator into the boat, but it woke up and put its whole weight on his foot, which broke his toe. The bite tore his boot, and if he hadn't been so quick on his feet, he would have lost his fingers. Also, there were times when the hunters did things that were both brave and dangerous. J. Paul Molinari once jumped into the water with a 650-pound alligator that was hurt. As it thrashed, they put their arms around its neck and choked it. His dad, RJ, watched from the boat because he knew his son could drown if the gator rolled over. They were able to tie up its legs and pull it in, but it was the kind of move that could have gone badly. Alligators were not the only danger in the swamp, though. Jacob Landry learned this when an ant-covered bait line got caught in the prop of his boat. The hook went back into the deck and hit him in the leg hard. The shark hook was a number 3 and had a large barb. The pain came on right away. They lost the boat key in the chaos, which made things even worse. They waited until another boat came by and took Jacob to land. They were stuck in the bayou and couldn't get back. At the hospital, doctors cut the hook's barb and pushed it through, telling him to be careful not to get an infection. The swampers saw the marsh as more than just a place to work. It was a place of war. Also, the alligators were always alert and ready out there. And the hunter became the hunted after just one mistake: the death of a father figure. Family was important to Willie Edwards, and from the beginning of Swamp People, his parents, Junior and Teresa Edwards, showed up with their 2 boys. They were first seen in the 1st season and stayed until the end of the 6th season. Following that, Junior and Teresa turned off the TV, but Willie kept going. It's safe to say that he has done well for himself so far. He was the only member of the Edwards family who kept showing up in the show. Willie thought the show was more than just episodes and cameras. He did it as a way to make money. For a long time, the Edwards family made most of their money by catching alligators and fishing for money, and Willie continued those skills. The money he made from the show and the steady work of the family fishing business helped him take care of his young family. Not only did Junior, Teresa, and Willie hunt and fish, but they also did something different. They turned their attention to the tourism business for a while, giving tours and fishing trips along the Atchafalaya River Basin. People could see the swamps through the eyes of those who had lived and worked there for generations. At the same time, they started selling shirts, hats, and other items. Many of these were bought in bulk by shops in the area. The projects for tourists and goods kept them busy for a while, but by 2015, the business website was no longer being used. The project ended, and they turned their attention back to hunting and fishing. It's possible that this was because the work wasn't making them enough money, or it was just that they wanted to spend more time on those activities. Even though Swamp People was made for TV, the men and women who lived in the Louisiana swamps were really in danger. There was heat, mud, and snakes in the water. For some, the danger wasn't in the swamp itself, but in the world outside of it, which was very sad. Randy Edwards died in a car accident in Louisiana on September 15, 2018. He was only 35 years old. The defense lawyer said he was driving when he failed to make a left turn. He was not wearing a seatbelt when the truck went off the road and hit a utility pole. He was declared dead at the scene of the accident after the crash. Ronnie Adams from the news show was shared by swamp people on the Facebook page of Junior and Teresa Edwards. Fans and other hunts were shocked and sad when they heard the news. Randy's death notice said that his wife and 3 children would live on after him. The Edwards family was always on the show, passing on the skills and customs of alligator hunting. His time on the show ended way too soon, though. Everyone who knew Randy felt the void. He used to fill every time they set out for a new season. The Edwards family has been on the show since the beginning. John and Teresa Edwards have 3 children. Randy is their youngest son. He hunts with their father and older brother, Willie Edwards. The boys grew up in the swamp, where they learned to fish and hunt in the same water that their family had used for generations. People like Randy because he is funny and always ready to work hard, no matter what. After many years, the family lost someone else. Little Willie Edwards, who was born to Willie Edwards, wrote on Facebook on July 26, 2005, that his grandpa, Junior Edwards, had died. He put up a picture of Junior and his dad out on the water together with the words, "Rest easy, Paw Paw." It's likely that you're running your hoop nets or doing something crazy behind those pearly walls. Paw Paw, we will miss you so much. We love you very much. Until we meet again. A lot of messages came in from fans. One person wrote that Junior was one of their favorite show stars. Someone else just said, "No, I loved seeing your dad and him in the swamps. Don't worry." Ronnie Adams wrote a tribute to Willie and shared a picture of himself with him and his 2 sons on Instagram. He also wrote that he was praying for the Edwards during this difficult time. Junior, please rest in peace. Ash Deadeye Jones, who was also a swamp people hunter, also talked about her memories. She said Junior was a true outdoorsman and one of the best alligator shooters in the world. She saw him bring huge alligators into Duffy's gas station in Pierre Part, Louisiana, after a long day in the swamp. She wrote next to the selfie of the 2 of them, "Glad we took a second for a picture." From 2010 to 2015, Junior Edwards was a regular on Swamp People. He went shooting with his son Willie and grandson. He came back for season 12 in 2021, putting up a picture on Facebook with the words, "Surprise, look who's back." Do you think these losses have anything to do with the Willie Edwards threats we've been getting? As the signs say, alligator hunting is not a place to be careless. It's risky work, and the person going after the animal has to think about their own safety as well as getting it. Florida has rules that hunters must follow when they go out on a boat. The guidance lights need to be on at night. Everyone on board needs to have a life jacket. It's not enough, though, to just store the jacket somewhere. In the dark, with tree stumps hiding things and an angry alligator on the line, you have to wear the coat, because a gator's behavior could change right away if it is tied down. A man could be thrown into the water before he has a chance to grab something by getting hit hard. If a gator bites you, even if it's just a quick snap that leaves a small cut, you don't wait for it to heal on its own. There were many types of bugs in the water where they lived. An illness could spread quickly from even a small scratch. Going to the hospital right away was the only smart thing to do. Some hunters take a bang stick to kill animals, but it can be dangerous if not used correctly. Because it acted like a gun, it had to be pointed away from people and away from danger at all times. It wasn't aimed at anyone. You had to unload it as soon as possible when you weren't using it. The bang stick was used like a stick instead of a gun, which hurt more than one man. The Atchafalaya Basin is the largest river swamp in the United States. It is very far from towns and roads, which make it less safe. There are almost 500,000 acres of woody swamps, open lakes, and winding bayous that make up this world. It was full of every kind of animal you can think of. There was a wildlife refuge called Atchafalaya, 30 miles away from Baton Rouge. That is open to the public and is part of the Sherburne complex. This land is shared by the U.S. Refuge. the Sherburne Wildlife Management Area, and private land. Corps of Engineers of the Army, black bear, white-tailed deer, rabbit, raccoon, woodcock, turkey, and many types of birds can be hunted in the Sherburne Wildlife Management Unit. In Louisiana, the seasons and licenses are set by law, and no one can shoot there without a self-clearing permit. You could get one at a kiosk on one of the main roads, or you could get the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries check-in, check-out app on your phone from Apple Play or Google Play. There were open seasons and draws during the hunts. Archery, muzzle loaders, and guns were all used to kill deer. It was possible to hunt turkeys during both open and season drawing times. You could also shoot waterfowl, snipe, rail, gallinules, woodcock, mourning dove, and gray squirrels. Wheelchair hunters could go there because there were marked ATV tracks and deer and duck blinds that were made to be easy to get to. There was a lottery system for deer hunts for young shooters. This gave them a chance to learn how to hunt in one of the best places in the country. There were both chances and risks in the swamp. A man might come back with the biggest catch of his life, or he might not. And every hunter had to remember that. That's what Willie Edwards had done for most of his life: chase gators. But this was about me. In the Black Lagoon, a remote body of water, a monster had broken through a heavy-duty 14 hook the previous year and disappeared like smoke. He kept the bent hook to help him remember. After a season, he came back for the same animal. He thought an alligator was about 13 feet long and about 500 pounds. The air that morning was thick and still, with the kind of heat that makes the swamp smell like a wet rag. Willie quietly slid his boat into the lake. When you're after a gator of that size, noise is what you want to avoid. Even though they mostly eat at night, it is against the law to hunt them after dark. So you sneak up on them and look for clues they leave behind. They sometimes make dirty slides down the bank. There are times when roads go through the grass. However, bubbles are the most telling sign. Bubbles are little pockets of gas that rise from the ground. When an alligator moves around in the water, Willie was sure that a good bubble trail would get him to a big one faster than anything else. He sat on the edge of the water for a while and looked at the water through his binoculars. It can take more than 30 minutes for an alligator to come out from under, so remember to be patient. They will have to come up for air at some point, and when they do, you can see how big they are and decide if it is worth the trouble. Willie knew it was him when the bubble trail finally came to the surface. He put the hook on the line very high. Big gators like bad chicken that can make you sick, and they waited. More small ones would come if you set it low. As we already said, a gator this big would rise, swallow the bait whole, and then put the hook deep into its belly. After that, all that was left was to find where he hid the next morning. Willie didn't have to wait until morning this time. The giant rolled under his line and grabbed it. The fight started when Willie set the hook. He knew right away that the hook was in the bottom, which meant not enough power. As the gator pulled and bent the line, the water shook like a storm. With his arms locked, Willie braced himself and felt the weight on the other end. The line pulled loose for a split second in the middle of the fight, but Willie still saw the gator's head break the surface. His gun was a 6-shooter, and he shot the animal with all of its rounds to try to get a clean kill. But this gator wasn't like other gators. It still thrashed and pulled after the shots. The cylinder in Willie's car clicked empty. He quickly reloaded and fired again, and the giant finally stayed. He saw that it was the same gator from last year when he pulled the body closer. That's the one that had bent his hook and gotten away. And Willie had finally won. Now came the hard part, getting half a ton of bone and muscle into his boat by himself. A gator that big is not only heavy, but also dangerous, even when it's not living. They can snap their jaws 4 times. The tails were strong enough to break bones, and Willie had seen shooters get hurt by them alone. When everyone thought they were done, he had seen dead gators slide off trailers or jump out of truck beds. That's why you always tape their mouths shut. Willie took a look at what was going on. He looked around the bank for help because he couldn't carry the alligator by himself. He saw two trees close together and chose to use them as a point for the rope, putting his rope through loops to gain more strength. It was hard on the trees, and for a moment he wasn't sure if they would be able to hold. As the gator's hands got bit by the rope and sweat ran down his face, his huge body slowly began to move. Little by little, he pulled it over the edge of the boat until it hit the bottom with a loud thud. There was a 13-foot snake at his feet. It was the same snake that had bitten him before. Willie just stood there and took a deep breath. When people talked about how dangerous the Black Lagoon was, they meant it. You had to learn them the hard way. Willie Edwards has been in the woods and learned hard lessons, lost things, and been in danger. But he always comes back, just like his dad taught him. It's up to each person to decide if the risks are worth it. But there is still one question that no one can answer after everything he's been through and lost. How many more times does he need to be warned before the water takes him? Type your ideas in the space below. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more movies. Thanks for seeing.